Hey guys, I thought I would make a quick UI video before Cataclysm drops so you can set yours up. This is one of the most frequent requests I got after my PvP videos is to explain my UI, which add-ons I use, and talk it through a little bit. So hopefully I won't disappoint. Here's a couple of key points to creating a UI, and it's my general philosophy on how I do it and what it means for me. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'll have some more information in the video info section, so be sure to read that as well. The first mod I'm going to show you is something called Sun Art, and this allows me to modify my viewport. This has the effect of changing my field of view, which allows me to see more horizontally than otherwise. As you can see, as I modify the value of the top bar here, which increases its height, I can see further to the left and right. You can see objects appearing and then disappearing as I increase and decrease the viewport, respectively. So I strongly recommend using this mod as it allows you to actually see more of the game, and it gives you an advantage in raid encounters and in PvP because you have wider peripheral vision. I strongly recommend everyone sets their viewport unless you're using a widescreen monitor, which gives you this for free. A lot of people are really obsessed with clean user interfaces, and I like clean user interfaces as much as the next person, but I'm also not afraid to put information where it needs to be. I'm a big fan of the principle that my eyes need to be pretty much in the center of the screen on my character. It helps me do things like stand out of fire and see what's actually going on in PvP without me having to look into the corners of my screen to read a cooldown or check a DBM timer. The bar mod that I use is something called Dominoes, and I've been using it for years. Essentially, it's highly configurable. It lets you move bars all over the place, and it has a really nice feature which I take advantage of called Show States. And what this allows you to do is cause bars to appear or disappear depending on certain conditions. So in my case, I like to put one action bar which contains all of my major cooldowns right in the center of the screen. That way I can be looking at my character and seeing what's going on around me, and at the same time watch all my cooldowns without moving my eyes around too much. However, this would get extremely distracting if I were to run this all the time, so I put show states on my action bars that make them only visible when I'm either in combat, or if I need to check some cooldowns when I'm not in combat, I can hold down the Alt key and it will make the bar visible as long as my Alt key is held. And it's really kind of tricky to do, so I've showed you the condition text you need to do on Dominoes to make that work. Another add-on that I've been using recently is something you can see underneath my action bar, and it's called Tell Me When, and it's like an action bar in its setup and its layout, but it's actually not an action bar, it's just information. And what you use it for is configuring when events occur or when conditions are true. For example, I use it to track the cooldowns of my totems, so when my totems are available, an icon of that totem will appear under my action bar, and when it's not available, it's hidden. So it's just a quick way for me to tell what abilities I have available to me. And I use it in PvE for my cooldowns, things like Blood Fury and my engineering stuff. And it's a really nice add-on. It's a little bit buggy, particularly when you first log in. Sometimes the engineering icons that I've set up for item slots don't work right, but as soon as you type /tellmewhen, it magically fixes itself. Power Ores is one of the most important add-ons for Enhancement Shamans. You can do a lot of really custom stuff with them. The indicator that Blizzard has given us in Cataclysm is not sufficient, and it's not sufficient because it's not enough to know when you have 5 stacks of Maelstrom. It's important to know when you have 3 stacks, 4 stacks, and then 5 stacks, because as it counts up, you can predict that you're going to have to cast a Lightning Bolt soon, and it helps you coordinate all your cooldowns correctly. The same thing is true with Searing Flames and Lava Lash. Okay, so what I've done is I've created auras that show you stacks up until 5. When it becomes 5 stacks, instead of just showing the number 5, it shows a blinking icon, which to me indicates, okay, this is ready, use this ability. I also have a Lightning Shield power aura that shows me when Lightning Shield has fallen off, which doesn't really happen that often in PvE anymore, but it used to, and it still does happen. You'd still sometimes take damage from little adds, and it happens in PvP all the time. And the other auras that I've created are mostly encounter specific. I do have one other aura for Storm Strike, which indicates when my target does not have a Storm Strike debuff on him, and that helps me to know whether or not I should cast Storm Strike before using a Maelstrom proc, or vice versa. Usually Lightning Bolt is better to cast before Storm Strike, but if you don't have a Storm Strike debuff, then it's better to do Storm Strike first. For a long time I used X-Prill unit frames, but I've recently switched over to Pitbull, and I like it a lot more. Pitbull is extremely configurable. In my opinion, it's the most configurable add-on for unit frames I've ever seen. Unfortunately, this means it's really difficult to configure, so it took me hours to learn how to do it and to create configurations that I was happy with. So be prepared to invest a lot of time in this add-on, but it's really worth it. With Pitbull, you can configure it to work like Grid. You can make it look like Grid, you can make it act like Grid, and in fact you can customize it a lot more than Grid. So you can add, for example, portraits, you can do horizontal bars like I usually do, you can do a grid of portraits, you can do pretty much anything you want. The only complaint I have is that their debuff indicators, they call them auras, are really pretty bad, so it might be better to use Grid until you can figure out how to get that right. Any class that can cast a heal should be using Click. What it allows you to do is bind mouse buttons to heals so that you can mouse over a raid bar or any kind of unit frame and just simply right click or left click and cast a different healing spell. It makes it a little bit inconvenient to target people, but as an Enhancement Shaman, the only time you would ever target a friendly player is to heal them, and if you can do it without having to target them, your throughput will not decrease. Another add-on that I've recently started using is something called Quest Helper, which I think will be really helpful for Cataclysm leveling. It's just an improvement for the objectives frame, but it also has this really neat feature, which you can see here, this little arrow, which points you in the direction of your objectives, and it basically tells you which way to turn, and it turns red if you're going in the opposite direction of where you're supposed to be. And this arrow will only appear if you track an objective, so it's actually really cool, and I like it a lot. In this next bit, I'm going to show you my favorite mod that is most critical to my gameplay, and that's called Threat Plates. And it's actually a theme for another add-on called Tidy Plates. You need them both. Tidy Plates is a nameplate replacement. What it allows you to do is, actually, it's a little bit overpowered. In this first bit, what you see is me approaching a target dummy from outside, and in this next bit, I'm going to approach it with my threat plates enabled. And what you'll be able to see here is that I can actually see the target dummies from their nameplates before I can actually see them. So I know that there are target dummies around the corner out of my line of sight. And you can take advantage of this in PvP to be able to see guys who are hiding on different floors, for example. And when you're in the Warsong Gulch tunnel, you can actually see people on the roof because their nameplates will be visible on your screen. I've seen that happen a number of times. So it's a little bit broken in my opinion. It's really, really valuable. And then in group PvP, it's also critical too because it can show you immediately which classes everybody is. It can also show you what their health is without having to target them. So I can immediately enter a battle and I can see that there is some, warlock at 10% life. I'm going to go jib him and target him first. So it's a really valuable add-on. Again, it's called Tidy Plates, and then the theme for Tidy Plates is called Threat Plates. So download both of those. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and subscribe.